What's up, guys? My name is Sammy Forson, host of the Weekend City Show and Ignition right here on Joy 99.7 FM. Well, anytime you happen to be busy and you miss out on your favorite shows right here on Joy FM, here's what you can do. Log on to myjoyonline.com/podcast. Just go on there and you'll find all your shows on demand 24/7. There you can catch up. Remember, Joy FM remains your radio for discerning listeners.
This is Joy News Desk. If you're looking for us on DSTV, it is on channel 421 and GoTV on channel 144. On to our next story, very first story. Hundreds of residents in the Mamprugu Mwaduri district in the northeast region are still trapped and cut off from other communities days after torrential rains. The residents are unable to travel out of the communities to market centers or seek healthcare services. They now rely on canoes as the only means of transportation to visit their farms and to seek emergency services. Eliasu Tanko reports.
The Mamprugu Mwaduri district has earned the nickname overseas, not because life is better there as the term usually implies, but ironically because in many ways it is worse. The district once again has been cut off entirely following torrential rains that have flooded roads, destroyed farmlands, and prevented residents from carrying out their daily activities. 16 communities are officially reported to have been cut off. However, Joy News visit found more than half of the district is currently inaccessible. Bridges and roads from the West Mamprugu municipality to the area are submerged in floods, and the only way now to reach the district is by long stretch from Bolga through Sandema and Fumbisi. Near the district capital, Yagaba, farmlands are submerged, water levels are rising. Some of the residents speak about the distractions caused by the floods. As you can see, the distraction is overwhelming. Our farmlands have turned into rivers, so we are appealing for immediate assistance. There is going to be anger if the government does not intervene. We need the government intervention as immediately as possible. This is the second route connecting the district to the West Mamprugu municipality at Logore. Majority of the cut-off communities are found on this stretch. However, the road for weeks have submerged by floods, cutting off movement from one community to another and leaving residents stranded and desperate. These teenagers are natives of Sakpaba, and they are waiting to be ferried across by canoe, which is now the only means of transportation.
Oh, Malapur Camaro in Chang, Bacheko. The 5 hours, can have been young, 10 and to Durma. So,
she's my wife. She's pregnant, and we are returning from Logre. She went for a checkup at the hospital there, but we've been stranded here for 5 hours, unable to cross back to our community. So we need help. Finally, the canoe showed up carrying these 3 elderly women.
We sat in the house for 1 month and we became fed up, so we decided to visit the farm and see what is happening. And when we got there, the whole farm was flooded.
Shortly after, another canoe arrived.
You
Cross the road, we always suffer before crossing the road, and it's because of the road we voted for MPP and no other party than MPP, so the government should do and come and do the road for us. Now we don't belong to any other party because we always vote because of help, and now when we vote they don't even think of us anymore, so we don't belong to any party again.
The road, the bridges, the culverts should all be fixed, else no vote next year. The residents are therefore calling on the National Disaster Management Organization to dispatch personnel of the Marine Police and the 48th Engineers Regiment to help them resume socio-economic activities. Ilyasu Tanko reporting.
Well, on the back of that story, joining us live via Zoom is the Northeast NADMO Director, Al-Hassan John Kweku. Many thanks for your time, John Al-Hassan. How is your outfit working to rescue and provide relief for those who have been trapped? Do we have Al-Hassan John Kweku with us? If you can hear me, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Can you hear me either?
I can hear you, sir.
Hello? Yes. I'm saying good morning to your cherished listeners and the people of the Northeast region. And then, in fact, the area that, the picture, the video that you have just shown, you can see that the water is not all that deep. And then the equipment that we have, they are speedboats and we use them for evacuation purposes. So these are the normal flooding that you see. The water is at their ankle, their knee level, and then, like I said, we are ready to support, evacuate any victims that are trapped in any of the areas. But as you can see now, some of them even ride bicycles and they cross the river. Boats cannot be used on these waters. And when ahead of the incident, we went to the scene to assess the situation, but we realized that the equipment that we have cannot be used on that water, and that's why it's happening so. And then we've even asked them to stay away from the water. You see, some of them are even trying to go to their farms, which is very dangerous. So we have advised them at the moment not to get closer to the farms because the farms are inundated with water. We don't want to lose any life longer because last year, some of them tried to use canoe to do maize harvesting, and in the end, we recorded some deaths. So we are even appealing to residents in the Mampurugu-Maduru area to stay away from the farms for now, so that when the water recedes, they can go back to do their harvesting.
Okay, so two quick things. You said the waters aren't so deep. We saw different footage, some with people in canoes and all of that. So I want to believe that now the waters have receded to maybe some of the other ones we saw at the latter stages.
These are waters that you see. Those canoes, these are wooden canoes. But what we have, they are speed boats and then heavy duty boats. So they cannot be used on that particular water. The equipments that we have at hand are heavy duty equipments that are used for evacuation purposes. And so, like I said, the Marine Police are there, the 48, the Army are there, NADMO is on the ground, and we are monitoring the situation. It isn't that we are leaving the people to their fate. We are monitoring the situation as and when the need arises that we should go and then evacuate people. We're ever ready to do that.
Okay, so the quick point I'm making is that if canoes can be on these waters, then there is a little bit of depth and not very shallow for people to risk anything in there. But how many people have been affected so far? How many people have been trapped?
As it is, it's about 16 communities that are cut off. And it has to do with their road network. It's not the communities themselves. The communities are sited on higher grounds. So the people are not affected much. And then also it's about their farms. The whole place is inundated with water, and it's difficult for NADMO and then MOFA officials to even get into these farms to do proper assessment. So we are waiting for the water to recede for us to be able to get access to these areas to do a proper assessment, to be able to determine the number of farmlands that are affected in terms of acreage. And then also with regards to essential services like health supplies and what have you, the zip line in Walawale is doing their best. They are able to provide them with essential services. So there's no cause of alarm. We are on the ground and we are monitoring the situation.
Right. Does that mean in the interim that your hands are tied? In essence, for those who are trapped, there's not much you can do for them until the waters recede. Is that it?
Oh, if you say they are trapped here, I'm not getting what you are trying to say. But
well, they are cut off, aren't they?
Yes, they are cut off. But they are able to go about their normal duties because that water is not all that deep. I personally went there, it's at the knee level. And we are even asking them to stay away from those waters because they try to even go as far as their farms to do harvesting, which is very dangerous. So we are even calling on them to stay away from the farms because it's dangerous for their lives.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kweku, for joining the conversation. Alhassan John Kweku is NADMO Director for the Northeast region, and he was interacting with us there. She was young, a young single mother with her own struggles in life, but with very high hopes of a bright future where she would be a fulfilled school teacher. But one road accident is all it took for all those hopes to be lost and replaced with suicidal thoughts. This is the story of Mercy Mbugri, a 22-year-old woman who lost her 5-month-old baby and had her left leg amputated after a ghastly accident in the Bolgatanga in the Upper East region. Correspondent Albert Sori has the rest.
She could get some help.
Please, I want them to help me join my colleagues in school. And I think if I get a prosthetic, it will help me join my colleagues in school and for me to afford some drugs.
For now, 22-year-old Mercy Mbugri can only pray, remain hopeful, and face each day of her life with patience and endurance. Albert Sori, JoyNews, Bolgatanga.
Albert Sori, my colleague, now joins us live with some more. Albert, it appears the tricycle is the most patronized means of transport in Bolga. Why exactly is it so?
Well, it would be the motorbike that many people use in the Upper East region generally. But also the tricycles are the next commonest means of transport for those who don't have their own motorcycles, or if they find themselves in a situation where, their car or bike is faulty and all of that. So it's the easiest means of transport. It is also cheaper compared to if you wanted to use a taxi, for instance. So many people prefer to use these tricycles to commute between their places of work and home and things like that.
So it may allow for ease of transportation, but how risky are the operations of the Mahama Kambu, in Bolga?
Yeah, so one of the challenges most people have is that there seem not to be regulations in terms of how experienced one has to be riding or operating this tricycle before they are allowed to take it on the road, for instance. I remember the former Upper East Regional Minister, Tangoba Abayagi, when she was in office, tried to clamp down on some minors that she detected, were operating some of these tricycles. And so the challenge is that when you are boarding one of these, you cannot really tell whether the operator is experienced in terms of knowing how to maneuver it or not. So you are basically just taking a leap of faith, so to speak. And so that is one of the challenges that people have. And as a road user in the Upper East region myself, when I'm riding my motorcycle, you find that some of these people cross the road in manners that sometimes gets you even infuriated. There are those who know how to use them, but a lot of them also seem to be careless, if you like. And so you find that they cause a lot of accidents in the Upper East region.
And that is the concern, which leads to my next question. Has there been any attempt at all by the MTTD to regulate the operations of these Mahama Kambu operators in Bolga?
Yeah, so in the past, when these tricycles started operating, I remember one of the challenges that the MTTD had was whether they should stop them because they have also become a source of livelihood for those who operate them. And so the few times they tried to do it, it didn't actually work. And so what you realize the police trying to do now is to check licenses for these people. Most of the time when you are using the roads in Bolga, for instance, you would find that the police stop a lot of them, check their documents and things like that. So what I would say that I've seen the police do is the fact that they try to check if these people have licenses, like riding licenses to operate them. But in terms of regulation, using the law, for instance, nothing has been done so far as we speak.
Albert, thank you for shedding light on this story. Albert Torre is our Upper East regional correspondent. Now, parents of a final year student of Opong Memorial Senior High School at Kokofu wants the police to swiftly bring the killers of their son to book. 19-year-old visual arts student Richard Appiah was stabbed in the lower abdomen by some youth of Kokofu following a confrontation with the deceased and his friends Saturday night. Mother of the deceased, Florence Boahema, wants the police to speed up investigations to bring relief to the family. Her appeal comes as police hunt for a gang suspected to have been involved in the stabbing incident. Ohiming Teria of our security desk has more in the following report.
The final year student, in the company of 4 others, sneaked out of campus on Saturday to the Kokofu town. Police say the attack on the deceased and his friends, who are noted for sneaking out of campus, was premised on an earlier incident. Bekwai District Police Commander DSP Damte Brown tells JoyNews the latest incident was triggered by the opposing youth seizing an iPhone of one of the friends of the deceased.
A student called Richard Appiah. He has some friends in the school, and they used to sneak to town every evening. And they had an encounter with some youths in the town some time back. Meanwhile, that case was not reported to the police. So when they came to town, one of his mates was with an iPhone. So those guys they have been having an encounter with met them in town, and then one of them went to the other guy, and then took his phone from him. So that Richard Appiah became angry, and then went straight to the guy, wanted to collect the phone from him. The guy broke a bottle, and they stabbed him with a bottle. There he fell unconscious, and was right there to Ahmadiyya Hospital, where he was pronounced dead on arrival. We are doing everything possible to get them arrested. I have informed some informants to assist us to get the culprit.
Sympathizers, including school teachers of the late Richard, have been visiting the Ejimon family house to mourn with the family.
Yay, Richard! Hey!
Richard's father, Kwabena Appiah, is a security officer at the school. He always checks on his son anytime he's on duty. He was off duty on Saturday night when Richard, his third child, sneaked out of the school. He is devastated. Meanwhile, his wife, Florence Boahema, is calling for swift police investigations into the matter. From Kokofu, for JoyNews, Ohiming Teria reporting.
Now, the Ministry of Defense is refuting claims contractors working on the Afari military hospital in the Ashanti region left medical equipment at the mercy of the weather. A video circulating online shows some of the project's construction equipment sitting outside. Deputy Defense Minister Kofi Amankwa-Menu says the equipment captured in the video is meant for outdoor installation, contrary to the claims. He has been touring the hospital in the company of the Ashanti Regional Minister Simon Osei Mensah. Naya Ojima has more in the following report.
The 500-bed capacity hospital received parliamentary approval in November 2008, but construction was delayed due to changes in location. Tax exemption, which was a condition precedent of the contract, also delayed until 2017. According to contractors, the project is about 95% complete. Deputy Defense Minister Kofi Amankwa-Menu says the contractors are following due process in the installation of equipment.
I think we've gone round. We've seen all the so-called alleged equipment which are left to rot in the sun and in the bush. We've all seen them. The contractor explained that the cylinders are actually outdoor cylinders, and that is even a backup. And the air handling unit out there are supposed to be outdoor unit. I think we went to almost every room on this facility, and you saw that equipment that need to be indoor are indoor, and those that need to be outdoor are outdoor.
The visit to the site shows important aspects like MRI equipment are yet to be fixed within the created space in the walls. Contractors Aerojet Deinvest reveal most equipment will be installed once power is fully connected to the site. Main site manager Ahmed Abu Shama says such equipment remain at the warehouse.
Recorded in the video is the same position. We didn't change anything. Nothing of medical equipment outside. Nothing. Even you open the boxes, you found the name of the equipment outside it. This is supplier, Sodica. This is air handling unit. It's extractor fan is system for HVAC, not for medical. Okay? None of medical equipment is here. We keep Aerojet, we keep our rights to take the legal actions against such incidents. Okay? Because we don't accept someone to come to our reputation and use misleading information, and this is not acceptable from our side.
The project is expected to be completed by December 2021 if financial conditions are met.
Most of the things have been done already. All they are waiting, of course, you know, this thing involves a lot of money. So they are waiting for something to really start. The figure actually jumped, and there was an extra 36 million US dollars. This figure was actually renegotiated with the help of my minister, the ministry, and then the consultant. They met with the contractor. The figure was renegotiated, and from 36 thereabout, it came to 19. And as we speak, the Ministry of Finance is doing value for money analysis. You and I know that whatever money we dole out in payment for this project, we must account for, and the Ghanaian people must get value for money. And so, yes, that is the stage we are now.
Well, from there, let's cross over to the Labadi Beach Hotel, where we're going to bring you snippets of that live event by the State Interest and Governance Authority on a stakeholders consultation on the draft code on corporate governance. The forum is live. We shall bring you the visuals right after this break. Do stay. Back on JoyNews desk, we now go to the Labadi Beach Hotel for that live event.
On personal information, right? There are two acts. Pardon me, it escapes me, but there are essentially two acts. One that deals with how you handle public information, and the other one that deals with disclosure. So organizations need to, on the one hand, balance their responsibilities on how they handle public information, and then at the same time, their responsibilities to make public information available upon request using the right procedure. But at the end of the day, this is how we see the implementation of that definition that I have just shared with you. If done right, you will have a sustainable high performance across the SEs. Why is that important? Dr. Yamson said it. More than 60% of our productive capacity sits in the SEs. So if the SEs are well run, and by that I mean roles, duties, and responsibilities are clear and are lived right, the direction for an SE is always very clear to everyone. We run a program called the Leadership Journey. And it is not uncommon for us to interview the board of a company and the extended leadership team. And for as many people as we interview, we have as many definitions of what the strategy of the organization is. It is not uncommon. I dare say that if we run it in any of these organizations represented here, we will see the same pattern. And it takes a very strong board, it takes a very well-led board, it takes a very cohesive board to ensure that, first of all, the direction is clear, it is coherently articulated, and that it can be lived by all the members of the organization, from the very top to the very bottom. Direction is key. And in many cases where SEs fail, it is because there is lack of clear direction. The board is going in one direction, the chief executive and his team are going in another direction, and the managers are also having their own little tete-a-tete somewhere. The other part is the legal and regulatory compliance. There are many SEs that are not compliant, but because they are in the public sector, as it were, a blind eye and a wink is what often is the response. And where there is enforcement, I think some years back, Electricity Corporation decided that all SEs will pay their bills. Do you remember? Do you remember the chaos? When institutions were asked to go and pay their electricity bills, some even resisted the installation of prepaid meters. You remember? This is essentially a resistance of good behavior. And so some installed generators rather than go and pay their bills. Risk management is another issue. Clearly, nobody saw COVID coming. But when COVID came, some countries responded very well, some institutions responded very well, others also experienced abject failure. Why is that? Some organizations inherently were ready. I'll give you an example outside the SE environment, and you can judge for yourself. When COVID came, church services or religious services ceased. Some churches didn't blink. They immediately seamlessly shifted to online services. Other places who saw technology as a work of the devil and did not have any technology in place suddenly found that the church ceased. And then you had complaints. People are not coming to church, they will go to hell. But the issue really was that the offerings were not coming. So you need to understand what are the potential risks for your organization and look far and think about how we might possibly address these issues should they materialize. And that is the first responsibility of the governing body of every SC, being the board. The other issue is internal controls, and I know that we love internal controls. You go into any organization and there's internal audit, and it's a very powerful role. And in recent times, we've had discussions about internal audit being pulled out of the SEs to sit in their own, is it department or we have the Ghana Audit Service, so internal audit service is the conversation that is going on right now to make them more independent and less beholden to the management and the board of any particular organization. Why is this an issue? It's an issue because clearly, governance is failing. And when the Public Accounts Committee does its report, 20-something years, 28, almost 30 years into democratic rule, where we still have incidences where Parliament has to sanction or recommend sanctions for bad behavior, for poor governance, essentially, because internal controls are failing. It's an indictment on the quality of internal governance of corporate governance across the SC, and something that now there's a conversation about how to address. Finally, there's a matter of building the right relationships with stakeholders. How best do we ensure that every part of the organization, both the internal stakeholders and the external stakeholders, feel confident about how the organization is being led? In the last week, we've had huge conversations in the media about school feeding and the success of or lack of success when it comes to school feeding. And it took the minister to leave his office, go on a field trip, take photographs to demonstrate that the issue is not as grave as it is. But even there, once there was smoke, people wanted to see fire. And there was a resistance to the clear demonstration that whilst there were issues, they were not as explosive as was being discussed. Why is that so? Because there's a disconnect. Some parents, some teachers, some administrators felt they were not being listened to, and that was at the root of the whole conversation. They felt that they did not have a voice. So if you don't have the right relationships with the stakeholders, these things will happen. And I'm not saying this to criticize anyone. I'm merely citing an example that the issue was not, for me, not even about the availability of food, but it was the underlying statement was that people did not feel they had a voice. It is critical that the board ensures that all stakeholders are satisfied that they have the right amount of voice, and that when they speak, there's a fair hearing and an adequate response. Are there any questions, any comments at all? Okay.
Now, from those corporate governance matters being discussed at the Labadi Beach Hotel, we take a break. When we return, we bring you business.
Hi, good morning. Welcome to Business. My name is Darryl Kwao. Former Finance Minister Seth Terkper has dismissed claims by the present government that the Mahama-led government left a huge financing gap. He was speaking at a forum organized by the Center for Ethical Governance and Administration on the state of Ghana's economy. There's more in this report.
The former finance minister insisted that the actual fiscal deficit to GDP was about 15%, as estimated by the International Monetary Fund, and not 11.7% claimed by the government. According to him, the government was irresponsible in spending, hence the ballooning financing gap.
It's better to use the GDP because one regime had oil, another regime, one oil field, two oil fields, all those things affect the GDP. You rebase, it affects the GDP. So when you use the GDP, then it becomes a very useful arbiter. You see the equivalent of the 2.3% the 5 billion, translating into 2.3% of GDP. And that is the extent to which our deficit was inflated. When you hear that we left a deficit of 8.3 or whatever, straight away it is reduced by 2.3. So if you have a deficit of, if it's claimed that we left a deficit of 8 point something, then it means it goes down to 5.
On debt, Mr. Terkper expressed shock that the government keeps borrowing in contrary to its earlier position of raising more revenue through a productive economy than borrowing. He pointed out that the past administration was better in borrowing and keeping the economy in shape, christening it smart borrowing.
The issue we have now in Ghana is that revenue is not covering expenditures. Revenue is not total revenue, not tax revenue. It used to be total revenue. As we speak, total revenue, including grants, including our oil money, including the statutory funds and everything. When we say total revenue, we must understand it includes all this. It's unable to pay two items in the budget, compensation and interest payments. And what this means, practically speaking, is that we are borrowing to finish paying those items. We are borrowing to run government, all the ministries, what you call the goods and services or current expenditure. We are borrowing, for capital expenditure, which is what you would normally borrow. And above all, you are borrowing to pay arrears. And the above all now comes, you are borrowing to repay the previous loans that, you contracted. So this is how dire the situation is.
Ghana's fiscal economy has become a matter of concern as almost all the indicators has assumed worrying trend. The debt to GDP ratio is presently almost 77%.
In other news this morning, Cocoa Board has begun processes to sign $1.5 billion in syndication loan for the next cocoa crop season, that is 2021 and 2022, for the purchase of cocoa beans. Speaking at the Olam Cocoa Managers Conference, Chief Executive of Cocoa Board, Joseph Edu, disclosed that discussions have already begun with banks to get the process on course by the end of the current crop season. He joined the meeting virtually.
So, the long and short of it all is that COVID had adversely or negatively impacted, the market and affected our revenue generation. Now, when you combine the two, that's the climate change and then the impact of COVID, you come to realize that the money that we went for last year, we syndicated $1.3 million for 2020-2021 crop season. But because of the two impacts, and then the production that ensued, because the production far exceeded our projection. The production of cocoa far exceeded our projection. And for that matter, the money that we went for, the $1.3 million, did not take us anywhere. And within the year, we've had a number of problems. Of course, I must commend Olam. We've done very well because at some point, Olam was buying about 70,000 metric tons ahead of us.
While the $1.5 billion syndicated loan is expected to also ease the current pressure on the city. And that's it for business. There's more coming up. That's sports with Ureku. Don't go anywhere.
Thank you for staying with us. We get into sports now with the man Ureku Ampofo. Welcome aboard, bro.
Thank you.
Ziki Akono, out or in?
Oh, the way things are going, it looks like it's more out.
Boys make wild.
I've never seen Ghanaians rage this much on social media about, a particular person for a long while, and it's a united voice. Usually, you have divided opinion. I don't think.
There are a few people out there who are saying give him. A few people like me. I am galled. I am appalled at the performance, but I still think, he's still learning the ropes in a way, and switching a coach or a manager at this time might also be problematic for the team. I don't know what you think about that.
Well, transition can be difficult. I think that's one thing everybody agrees with. But it's the manner in which his first 10 games have gone that I think is, attracting so much criticism. And it's more or less about the performance. Even look beyond the fact
from the friendlies to the qualifiers, everything has been shaky.
He's won just four out of 10 games so far, and those victories came against lesser ranked teams. Whenever he's met a team that are amongst the elite in Africa, Ivory Coast, Morocco, South Africa, we've not seen Ghana attempt to even play football.
Right.
It's the lack of control, and the poor performance, I think, is what is getting him a lot of stick, especially from Ghanaians. And so, unfortunately, when you speak so much about results in your press conferences and your post-game conferences and all that, you tend to skew, the stakeholders, that's the fans, towards the results. And so when the results are also not coming in, now you have nothing to fall back on.
Because on the back of the first match, he was like, 3 points, we had 3 points.
Yeah.
But in this instance, it was I think it is fitting to say it was a pathetic performance.
Yeah,
the way we performed against Bafana Bafana. They were not good themselves, but we were even poorer.
Yeah, it was a very young Bafana side, filled with youth, new players. Coach said he's building a team. And they're almost in a similar circumstance as us, but probably because we have more experienced players. And, you know, we played in a stadium that had no fans, and everything leveled the playing ground for Ghana to at least get a point there. But, you know, under CK, the problem has been chance creation. We've seen the team play just 5 shots on target in their last 4 games. Yesterday, in the second half, the team didn't even play any shot at all. And these are the things that are worrying for Ghanaians, because if you want to win an Africa Cup of Nations, you need to start dominating games, or at least winning games comfortably. And bar that match against Qatar, that CK's second game in charge, we've not really seen the team assert themselves in any, you know, game against a side that should be giving the Black Stars problems.
Okay, so 4 out of 10 is 40% of our matches.
Then he's lost 4.
Those are the returns.
Yeah.
How much is he earning again? 25K?
Yeah, reportedly $25,000 a month.
$25,000.
Yeah.
4 out of 10. I'm not insinuating anything. I'm just trying to get into it. What is the way out of this? I mean, looking at our national team, is it the change of a manager really that we need? Would it really change anything, looking at the crop of players we have?
Well, I think, first off, we need a lot of retrospection, which we're not going to get, because the Black Stars return in action just next month, and the games will be coming in thick and fast, which is not a good sign, because it means that you cannot make drastic changes. And I doubt CK Akona would be sacked unless something crazy happens and Zimbabwe probably scores Ghana 4-0 or 5-0, something really embarrassing. But what I would expect is for, you know, the Ghana Football Association, the sports ministry, to sit down and really look at the team and say that this is what we have, this is where we are, and this is where we want to go in the next 5 years. Stop with the childish promises that Ghana is going to win an AFCON in 2021. It's not going to happen.
And we're pumping so much money in there anyway.
Yeah.
Is it $25 million?
That's what they're requesting. And you just have to be realistic with Ghanaians. You've been preaching winning an... You know, the president said that they have to win the AFCON and reach the semi-finals of the World Cup. How do you watch this team and expect that? And then Ghanaians also fall into, you know, that whole mood and start to expect the same thing from the players. And it just puts unnecessary pressure on them. I think they just have to be real and say, look, in the next 2-3 years, we're not going to win anything. We've seen that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer at Manchester United. The fans accepted that they are rebuilding in 3, 4, 5 years. Now they are ready to challenge for a title. When should Ghanaians expect that? Be real, look at the plan, explain it to Ghanaians, and then people will be able to manage their emotions better.
Thank you very much, Oreku Ampofo. So for you out there, is it CK in, CK remain, or CK out? The verdict is yours. This is how we wrap on Joy News Desk. My name is Benjamin Akapo. Don't you forget to check out more stories on myjoyonline.com. Thank you for your company.